Welcome to the number one podcast covering Michigan State basketball. The Final Four is not on the schedule. Join Rod and me, Eric, as we dive deep into the Spartans to get you prepared for every game. Subscribe today for in-depth recruiting updates and fantastic interviews with today's important college basketball personalities like Robbie Hummel.
Thanks for having me. I have listened to your guys' podcast numerous times on drives throughout any Midwestern Big Ten city. So I am big fans of your guys' work.
Jay Billis.
And next time, hey, if anybody in Michigan wants a December tea time, call me. You wimps won't show up, but I'll be there. I'll be there and play in the cold. And Izzone will be in front of the fire with hot chocolate.
Coaches Thomas Kelly.
No problem. Glad to be back, man. Glad to be back.
Mike Garland.
You just can't sit there and trade twos for threes. You can't do it. You're going to lose. Coming down the stretch, you're going to lose.
And more. You won't find better coverage of Spartan hoops than you will get here. For both the casual and hardcore fan, come along as we take you for a green and white ride. Hey everybody, it's Eric alongside Rod, here to talk about MSU's 92-61 obliteration of the Penn State Nittany Lions. Before we begin, a big thanks to Kenneth Kramett, who is now supporting the show on Substack. Thanks, Kenneth, and all you who support the show financially with one-time gifts and recurring gifts. You guys are the best. If you'd like to help pitch in and help us out, feel free to check out tffinots.com/support to get the necessary links. Well, Rod, this was sort of the game we expected from MSU and restarting their 18-game Big Ten Blitz. With the blowout win, MSU moves to 1-2 in the conference and 11th place. Next up is Northwestern and Evanston on Sunday. In this game, the Spartans really came out sharp, I felt, played stifling defense, built a 25-point halftime lead at 51-26. That came on the back of a lot of steals. I mean, they had 10 steals in the first half, which led to a lot of easy buckets, really frustrated Nittany Lions offense. Penn State was largely discombobulated most of the game, I felt. The second half was a little less clean from State, some careless turnovers, poor shooting. But I think they largely played well enough to cruise in with a stress-free victory.
It was, I think, in the first half, other than some issues with defensive rebounding,
right.
It was, rebounding at both ends, really. Other than that, and they really weren't as dramatic as they might have seemed watching it, which I'll get to in a bit. But other than that, that was an unbelievable first half by Michigan State. It was everything that we've been seeing lately, just more so. Defense was completely dialed in. Combination of great positional defense, the way we're used to seeing Michigan State teams play. And then, as you mentioned, very active hands. Michigan State for the game had 13 steals.
6 from Tyson.
Which is, and I think he had all 6 in the first half, actually. And I actually believe 11 were in the first half. But anyway, that was really impressive. Obviously, the shooting, the ball movement, the commitment to getting into transition, despite the fact that it was an up and down game, the minimization of mistakes. I mean, you add it all up, and you really couldn't have asked for more. And honestly, it's, as anybody who's played or even just watched basketball for a long time knows, when you have a halftime lead of 25 points, it's generally going to be hard to build much on it or even maintain it in some situations, because it's a very, very difficult thing to keep the momentum and sharpness and focus at that peak level for a full 40 minutes. And Michigan State didn't. I mean, they had a stretch kind of in the middle of the second half, which was not great. And I wasn't real thrilled with AJ during that stretch. I know others.
Yeah, he kind of fogged out a little bit.
Yeah, he made a couple, he got mad at Cohen Carr for cutting away from where he was. The ball went sailing out of bounds. It was during a stretch where I think they had 3 turnovers on 3 straight possessions, or maybe it was it was 2 turnovers and a horribly jacked 3 by AJ. But AJ's bitching at Cohen. AJ, you picked up your dribble 30 feet from the basket by the sideline. Whose fault is that? So other than that stretch, though, I think Michigan State played solid basketball in the second half, and as we saw, built upon that halftime lead a little bit. But overall, boy, you got to be really happy with their effort. Coming back in the Big Ten play, we talked about it in the pregame. This was kind of set up an ideal situation, an opponent that you really do outclass, playing them at home in a situation where you really need a win just to get one in the win column in the league and start, taking this momentum they've built into conference play. And boy, they just checked almost every box there is to check in that regard. So really, really good stuff from Michigan State.
And I think, we can highlight, it's a career high for Malik Hall, 24 points.
Tied his career high, yep.
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. So it's 9 for 12
That's
from
what
the
they
field,
said on the
2 for 2
broadcast, at least. I didn't verify.
Yeah. At the Breslin Center, they put up career high 24 points, so maybe it was a tie. I'm not sure. So, 4 for 5 from the line, 5 defensive rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover, 3 steals. I mean, the guy, 27 minutes, he was fantastic. I mean, he was so comfortable and moved in rhythm. I mean, what more can you say about his performance? It's really good.
And putting it back to back with the Indiana. I think he's been playing well anyway. The numbers,
even when he's not scored a ton,
right.
He still looked good defensively. He's been engaged the whole time.
The numbers haven't always been there, but I think the level of play has been, and the numbers have been there in these last 2 games. I mean, tonight it was great to see a couple threes go for him, but more important than that, I think, and I'm not discounting the importance of that, but I think more important than that is just, and you just touched on it, he just looks so confident with the ball now. I mean, you look at the way he's operating in the post, and man, at times, and look, it's hard for a 6'7" guy to be a consistent low post threat. So I'm not ready to declare, well, he's going to be able to do this against everybody in the league the rest of the season. But certainly against certain teams he can, where there are 4 men he's going up against that he can just kind of physically take it to. And he's gotten to the point that he doesn't rush. You're not seeing him as often as he had been, kind of get in those moments where he's trying to go off the dribble and he gets himself into trouble, over dribbles himself into bad positions, into traffic. You're not seeing that stuff as much. It's all really, really coming together for him. And it's a huge deal. I mean, for Michigan State to get that level of play out of him is really important. And no, he's not going to drop 20 plus every night. We know that. But he's giving them point production and rebounding and defense and ball movement. This is 2 straight games where he's really, really doing the job, moving the ball and finding teammates too. So just a great game from him.
I would say, just from my untrained eye, I feel like the spacing has been better. At least tonight it was much better.
Sure.
And so it gave him room, and there was an inability to get a double there. And when he's 1-on-1, I'm very confident with whatever move he wants to pull. I don't think there are many people who can guard him really well. He doesn't fall away. Like, you see Mady and he's 1-on-1. You don't feel confident that he's going to be able to do something.
He sometimes does that. He hasn't been doing it in the last couple games. I agree, but that would be.
But he even today he had I think 1, but it's not like falling back to what it's a controlled sort of move.
I'd agree with that. And look, he's capable of hitting fall away jumpers.
Oh yeah, right.
So it's not as if it's an automatic, essentially a turnover. He's capable of hitting those shots. It's just there have been times in his career and even this season where I have felt, God, Malik, just go through him, go strong. Well, you saw him. You saw him doing that today. It was really impressive. So, he's getting it done at a high level. There's no 2 ways about it.
Yeah, and I think just looking over the stats, Tyson was Tyson. I'm aside from his defensive, which I thought defensively he was fantastic, except for that little stretch in the second half where kind of everybody blew up. And even there was a little stretch in the first half, and I guess that would be the one thing Xavier Booker really struggled out there, and
he did.
And I felt like when Michigan State looked out of sorts, it was when he was on both ends of the court, the offensive and defensive end. Part of the time, I think he was playing the 5, especially in the second half.
He was.
And he didn't really know, like, oh, I've got to come out, set a screen. I mean, he just looked like he didn't quite know where he was supposed to be. It's great that he got all those minutes. I mean, he played, how many minutes?
14.
15 minutes. It felt like more than that in some ways. But so those are good growing pains that he had to go through. But you can definitely see he is a ways to go. But, this is a good game, I suppose.
You ride the roller coaster with him right now. That's what it is. So I can point to a couple of things that were really good. His first basket, which came on an offensive rebound, can't remember if it was Mady maybe. Somebody missed a shot fairly close to the rim, and you saw what Xavier's length and athleticism can allow him to do, and it showed that he's a little bit of anticipation, which we don't always see, because for young guys sometimes, and this case for him, he sometimes looks like he's playing in slow motion because he's not comfortable yet. It's to be expected. But he made that play. Obviously, he hit the 3 late. Always nice to see a guy hit a shot. But, honestly, with him, confidence is not an issue in terms of shooting, because I can't recall a single time this year he's passed up a shot that was even halfway good for him.
No,
he's very willing to hoist. So confidence is not an issue. It's nice to see the positive result. The negatives were, I think there were times that his lack of motor showed.
Oh, yeah.
And he got exploited because of it. I can think of one time he just got beat in transition.
Off his missed 3.
Yeah, Izzo lost his mind. Rightly so. And then there were instances where his strength or lack thereof showed up. There was one time he kind of got blasted. He had real trouble. There was a stint where he was trying to guard Wahab, and that's just not going to go well. There was one sequence where Wahab just kind of blasted him in the post, and you really saw, it was really evident, okay, he's not physically there yet against guys like that. And so that's going to be the deal. It's going to be a combination of Michigan State finding opportunities for him where they think he can help, and there will be some. I do think that. And what kind of strides he can make on his own to get better. Those are the two things. I think as Jackson Kohler comes back, as we've talked about a fair amount, the equation does get a little tougher, and we'll just have to see. I mean, it'll be interesting to me to see how is Jackson holding up, and then kind of related to that, how does Michigan State view, and this is not something Tom Izzo's real big on, but I'm going to use this word anyway. How does he see investing minutes in Kohler versus investing minutes in Booker? Because I have a feeling right now, as we sit here, or let's go flash forward to Sunday at Northwestern, where Kohler might be ready to play. Neither guy is in a spot where you think, well, we have a right to expect, good, solid production out of them. You might get some, but you're not in a spot where you feel super, super confident. So given that, where does it go as the rest of Big Ten play unfolds? Or can they find a way to balance that and get them both opportunities enough that we see growth? That would be ideal. I just think it's tough.
Yeah. Well, you definitely saw Booker's lack of strength on a lot of the defensive on the defensive boards. He really just got pushed around. There were a lot of rebounds that he missed, and one he kind of just like tapped out. I don't know if he was just hoping to tap it to Holloman or somebody. Anyway,
he also got a horrendous. I don't know if you could see it at the game. Just a horrendous flagrant foul call. It was awful. There's no business.
Well, the worst part
called.
about that is there's 3 minutes left, and we're like, it's a 25-point game. We're like, let's.
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
I don't care. Make it 3-1. Just get out of here.
In fairness to those guys, that's in a sane world, that would be the reaction, which would be, hey, look, this is garbage time. Let's just wrap it up, right? But those guys do get graded on every call Baker missed. So they're interested in getting to do tournament games, et cetera. It makes some sense. But it was still a bad call, in my opinion. What he did was he went, I'm sure most of our listeners saw it, he kind of swiped across to try to get to the ball, and his arm sort of grazed the kid's headband. I did not see an angle that suggested that he necessarily even really made contact with his head, but it looked like he might have
rubbed his forehead at most, right? Is all I thought.
Yeah. And Robbie Hummel on the broadcast saying, letter of the law, I get it, but it's still a play on for me. And that's kind of where I'm at. But I understand it, but it was just it's a bad situation. Whether you want to blame the officials for getting it wrong or blame the officiating the rules committee for requiring them to enforce nonsense like that. Either way, it was dumb. But anyway, as I said, we'll rode the roller coaster with Book, and that's going to kind of be how it is.
The only other individual we're talking about, I think, is Jaden Akins. I thought he played a really great game. Only 10 points, so 3 for 8 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, hit a couple free throws, just 2 rebounds, but he had a steal, he had 4 assists, a couple. So he was very active defensively, and so I thought he played a really good game, and especially for someone who's not scoring a ton of points, he was really, really engaged, and so I was very impressed with his game.
All 10 in the second half, and those 2 3-point makes were both step back threes, and that's something that we've talked about it. Jaden has that in his game. Yeah. So it's nice to see him going to it, getting rewarded for it, hitting those shots. But I agree with you. And I said at halftime, actually, on the Spartan Mag board, that I love the way he's playing, even though he hasn't scored. He had that play early in the game where he was in transition. He got the ball on the left wing and found Tyson in the middle for a layup. That was a great level pass. Yeah, absolutely.
That was a tough bounce pass.
And I thought the way he guarded was really impressive. He didn't rack up big rebounding numbers. He only had 2 of them. But overall, I'm with you. I think Jaden played really, really well. I do want to I want to talk about some other guys, though.
Okay.
I thought AJ, and I kind of alluded to this, it wasn't a terrible game, but it was the worst game, in my opinion, that he's played in several weeks.
The recent stretch.
Yeah. And I think, I mentioned that segment in the second half. Yeah, he was playing with a weird lineup, so maybe you give him a little bit of a mulligan, but man, you're the point guard. You're supposed to be the guy who elevates those players, Yeah. And he didn't do it. There were some positives. 4 for 7 from the floor, 2 for 4 from 3. Both of the threes he made were really good shots, came in rhythm, off good ball movement.
Yep.
I was happy to see him take them. He had that one in the second half during that bad stretch, which was an awful shot. So, I'm not going to say it's a step back. He had 4 assists to 4 turnovers. That's not great. I'm not going to say it's a step back, but I didn't think he played to the level he's been playing at. I also didn't feel he was as insistent as he's been kind of pressing the case, getting the ball into the lane. He did it, but not regularly.
I think he was really affected by the fact that he got that second
foul
he sat
early. He sat a lot.
And again, this is sort of like we talked about the Indiana State last game where Avila, whoever, just never quite got engaged in the game. And I felt like it was the same thing with AJ. He just, it's not an excuse, sort of explanation. I think
that's it.
Hard to get sort of in the game when he just gets, out like that. I guess the next is Tre Holloman.
That's where I wanted
23
to go
minutes.
Next.
Yeah, I figured that's where you headed. 5 of 7 from
he was
the field.
Good. 6 assists, no turnovers.
So he's 4th in the nation in assist to turnover ratio, 5.3 or something right now.
Because he keeps winning these games up. Tre Holloman, look, we've talked about this. I think there were a lot of people who seemed to feel the arrival of Jeremy Fears was going to mean that Tre Holloman didn't play. That was always
Right.
nonsense. And we talked about that in part because Michigan State's going to play guys in the backcourt. They're going to play more than one true guard reserve if they've got the option. And the second thing was we saw Tre do enough things that Izzo values at a high enough level to know, all right, this guy's going to play some. I will admit, however, I did not see quite this level of offensive confidence coming. And look, he's there. Right now, at least in the Big Ten, find me a better backup guard than Tre Holloman. I don't think you can. For the totality of what he does, the way he defends, the way he makes great decisions consistently, the way he's been shooting the ball. And recently, we saw it a bunch tonight, we've seen more and more of him looking to take the ball into the teeth of the defense, into the lane, and either finish or create for teammates there. It's really great to watch. I mean, to me, he is just continuing to come on and come on and come on. And Michigan State's got them a hell of a backcourt combination with him and the three starters. You know, and if Jeremy Fears was healthy, it would be insanely good with the level he was playing at. But it's just a huge deal to have Tre, as you kind of alluded to, on a night where maybe AJ wasn't at his best and he was in foul trouble. I mean, you start with just the foul trouble, regardless of how well he was playing. Right. He wasn't on the floor. And Michigan State didn't lose a step with Tre out there running things in the first half. So very impressive. And
how was that offensive rebound sitting down and then the bounce pass to Mady for an assist? I mean, that was pretty impressive play, high-level
and
player.
Mady's the other guy I want to touch on briefly. I thought, what do you have, 12 rebounds?
Yeah, 2 and 10.
12 rebounds, 5 points. But Mady Sissoko is doing three things very, very well lately that people who focus on, the occasional fumbled pass or, missed shot aren't, in my opinion at least, are not locked in enough on. One is, and this is a key to him staying on the floor, he's defending much better than he was. He went through a stretch early this season. I didn't think he was defending very well. That has changed. He is very much part of this recent renaissance in Michigan State's defense, where they've gone from where they were pretty decent early on to something well beyond that lately. The second thing is he's rebounding. 12 rebounds again tonight. He's just continued to be that kind of force on the defensive boards especially. And they need that. So that's a really good sign that he's doing that with some regularity. Third thing is, while he might not be scoring a ton, if you watched that game closely, and it's been true in many other games recently too, part of the reason Michigan State's offense is functioning better is they are getting much better action in screen and roll, in my opinion, from Mady and the guards. It's not all Mady. Some of it is the guards kind of locked in and utilizing his screens better. The timing's better. But Mady is back to, and that's something he's done before. Last year we talked about it with Mike Garland. He's his best screener on the team by a long shot, and he still is. But I think he's getting back to that level lately. So that's really important. So you put all those things together, they're getting really, really good play out of him. There's just no two ways about it. And it's important. They need it.
Yeah, and they scored 92 points. They don't need him to score 12, 15 points a game.
Right, you need him to do all those other things, and he did them.
Yep, exactly.
So it's good stuff.
All right, well, speaking of Mady, the Squeegee Brothers of Grand Rapids sponsoring the player who cleans the boards best. Who had Mady Sissoko? I did. So I win. I win this game. But we may have to, if this continues like this, we may have to change the rules or something, like who has the most offensive rebounds, because Mady seems like it's pretty much the obvious choice at this point going forward, if he keeps doing what he's been doing the last few games. The Squeegee Brothers, sorry, the Squeegee Squad. They do a great job. They're coming out to our house a little bit to clean some windows, but they can clean the inside, the outside of your windows. They can do your house washing. They can also do residential, not only residential, but commercial and also high rise. And so they kind of do everything. So if you're in the Grand Rapids area, and that's still a wide area, you want to contact the Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids. They will take care of all that stuff for you. The stuff that you can't get up. If you don't want to get up on your ladder, which who does, especially this time of year, in which case they'll come out and do it. And to kind of, I guess, mention too, not only do they clean the outside of the windows, if you want, they will clean the inside, they'll clean your screens, they'll clean the windowsills, they'll actually clean everything. Because I think, anyone can sort of put some Windex in a window, but they do everything. And so, if you want really great clean, you want to check out the Squeegee Brothers of Grand Rapids at squeegeebrothers.com/Grand Rapids/MI. I think you can find the link underneath. And then let's talk about the player that Michigan State need to keep in the gutter, brought to you by the Brothers Adjust Your Gutters. All the guys who get on the ladders, but they just put gutters up. They repair them, they replace them, they clean them out. You need leaf guards. You don't want to have icicles hanging off your gutters and impaling you. Make sure you contact the Brothers Adjust Your Gutters. They can take care of all that stuff. Again, they don't just do residential. If you have a business, you have gutters, they can do that too. They do small jobs, big jobs, whatever you need done. They come out and do fantastic work, great pricing. You can get a hold of them at brothersgutters.com. Again, the contact information for the Grand Rapids crew and the Metro Detroit crew can be found beneath in your podcast player or on the website at tiffnuts.com. So the player that Michigan State had to keep in the gutter was Kanye Clary, who the first half, Michigan State did a good job. The second half, not so well. He ended up with 21 points. He's 5 of 10 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 10 for 10 at the line, and that's where he did most of his damage.
Yeah.
So, 5 assists, 3 turnovers, had a steal. So, what do you think?
I think if we'd done it at halftime, I would have felt pretty good about it.
Yeah,
no,
right, exactly.
I don't think we can claim a push because he did put up a little bit above his scoring average, honestly. But 10 for 10 at the line, they just really struggled to defend him in the second half. That was disappointing. Michigan State.
That was during that stretch.
It was. A lot of it was. But it was disappointing to see. And it wasn't as if he was doing it against Stephen Izzone. He was doing it against guys. Right. No offense, Stephen, but he was doing it against guys who are, Michigan State's key players. Mm-hmm. And he was effective in getting by them and forcing contact. So that was, I thought there were a couple of questionable calls in there, but most of them were.
Yeah.
And, it's unfortunate, but look, you can't, this is a very small issue on a night where MSU just locked down literally everybody else on their team. I mean,
Ace Baldwin had 2 points. He's 0 for 7 for the field.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something.
Only 2 free throws.
I had honestly thought about
sure
making him this guy because Cleary has been their top scorer. Baldwin's number 2. But I had thought, Baldwin is their top assist guy, and he's kind of their most dynamic player, although you couldn't really tell by tonight. And I thought Michigan State did a great job with him. No question.
Yeah, defensively, they were just fantastic that first half. They got off to a good start, and then it made everything easy, and Malik was playing well. And so, again, it was just a great game at start, and a great way to hopefully get rolling in the Big Ten until leading up to that Illinois game. Why don't we go over the 5 keys to the game brought to you by Nudge Printing? And so, as listeners of the show know, that Nudge Printing is a fantastic place to get your Spartan apparel. And we're going to do something a little different now. Gabe is going to have a trivia question, and you can go and have an opportunity to win a free t-shirt at Nudge Printing. So the trivia question is, who is the last Michigan State basketball player to go in the top 10 of the NBA draft? So that is a question. So if you know the answer, you could always look it up if you want, but so that's the question. So if you wanted an opportunity to win a t-shirt at Nudge Printing. And again, those are those high quality screen printed shirts, huge selection, all kinds of things, whether it's football, basketball, any sort of vintage shirt. He's got all kinds of things there. men's shirts, women's shirts. You can head on over to nudgeprinting.com/TFFINOTS. So that's nudgeprinting.com/TIFNuts. Not only does it have the place to enter in the stuff for the answer to the trivia question and the actual trivia question, you can also you can listen to our show there, or you can buy other Spartan apparel, obviously, through Nudge Printing. So check it out, answer the question, and we'll see. And then we'll announce a winner in a week. So we'll announce a winner after the Illinois game. So probably sometime like Wednesday next week, you have to have the answer in. So check that out. We'll begin with the keys to the game. Number one, the glass. And this is one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country. Penn State ended up with a 33% offensive rebounding rate, which is a good offensive rebounding rate. It was, I think. Did I not
you're right.
calculate it properly?
You're correct. You are 33%.
Because they had 14.
Yep. 14 and 42 misses. Yep.
The out of bounds got 4 of them, or 3 of them anyway.
Yeah.
It was funny because, like you said earlier, it didn't seem like that impactful. Because I felt like they had a number of them early, and I didn't even remember them because I don't remember them scoring off them. So I don't know if they just turned the ball after they got the offensive rebounds or something.
They did end up with 16 second chance points. So that's that's it's a solid conversion rate, not great. But yeah, disappointing by Michigan State. There's no 2 ways about it. And again, this inconsistency in terms of defensive rebounding. There are games coming up, including one next week in Champaign against Illinois, a team that rebounds very well offensively, where if they can't clean that up, it's going to be a problem, and it will cost them. So I don't want to belabor it in a game where they won by 31 and look easily that impressive doing it. But, man, you got to find a way to clean this up and start consistently, game in, game out, doing the job. At the other end, it was okay. They were
32%.
Right. So it was pretty much a push. But Penn State's a terrible rebounding team. You should.
Right.
That's not a positive. So kind of a negative in this one. The one that came out of this game, I think. But obviously did not cost them in any way.
Yeah, right. It didn't matter. Mainly because Michigan State was shooting so well. I mean, I think they ended up shooting 56% from the field. They were 65% in the first half, 63% from 3 in the first half. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to trail mini games shooting like that.
Yeah.
Especially when Penn State was dreadful. Number 2 key to the game was chaos. And this is very interesting because I was turning to my family. I said, Michigan State had no trouble handling the press and the pressure in the first half. Part of that is because Penn State wasn't making any shots, so they couldn't really even set up their press. But even when they did, Michigan State had no trouble breaking it, but they never attacked it. And I know we had talked before the game that we were thinking Michigan State would sort of punish them. Right out of the gate in the second half, they started really attacking that press of maybe 3 or 4 of the first possessions, and then they kind of got away from it again. Now, they had a ton of fast break points off just all those turnovers and steals and stuff, so, there was plenty of chaos, but it was kind of on Penn State's end more than on Michigan State's end.
Yeah, I do think this. Penn State did not apply pressure in the same way I expected them to. They did press, but not very much of it was trapping. They would kind of fake show a trap.
Yeah.
And then the guy would peel off and it would be one-on-one. And it just didn't do any damage to Michigan State. So I think that part didn't really come to fruition as much as I had expected. That said, it was still a fast-paced game, and if you're not careful, you can let things get out of control. They never really did. MSU did end up with 12 turnovers on the game, but a bunch of those came in that terrible stretch in the second half we talked about. So if you look at the 40 minutes as an entirety, for most of that game, Michigan State played very sharply on the offensive end. And even with those, I think they had 25 assists on 36 made baskets.
Yeah, right.
That's Michigan State basketball. And we can talk about, there were multiple great passes in this game. We talked about the one Jaden made in transition to Tyson Walker. Tyson made one on a one-handed lob to the rim that I'm going to give Tyson a little bit of credit. I probably should give more credit to the fact that Cohen Carr is the greatest leaper in college basketball for going up and getting that one and dunking it. But still, and there were a bunch of others. I thought one of AJ, it was either his first or his second made three. There was a great play where Tyson got to the basket, kicked the ball in the corner to Malik, who was open, but Malik ended up making the decision to kick it to AJ for maybe an even better look on the wing, and he buried it. It was just a lot of simple plays that were the right plays, and then some spectacular stuff as well. And again, in a game played at that pace, I didn't feel the 12 turnovers were a big deal.
Yeah, and I think, we talked before about amount of attempts for Michigan State, the 64 field goal attempts, which is very good. It's probably about the same sort of pace of play as last game. Although they scored about the same amount of points they scored too, I guess, and you can look at too.
Yeah, it didn't have nearly as many
13 free throws.
Didn't have nearly as many free throw attempts, but
right. But pretty much, and I think they had more threes in this game too,
right.
So that's why the difference in the points total.
Right.
All right. So third key to the game, offensive balance. Well, I think that's. I think there was no question that they had really good balance there. I mean, fast break points they had 20, points off turnovers 24, points to the paint 42. They were and they didn't shoot a lot of threes. I mean, they shot 21, but made 10 of them. So
yeah.
Although I think actually they shot 22. They said Steven Izzone was 0 for 1. He was actually 0 for 2. They missed one of his three they launched from the logo. That was like 5 feet short of the.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
They did themselves some damage in the 3-point shooting department with in the last 10 minutes. But not just garbage time either, but still great balance in this game. Even with AJ not quite doing as much as I would like to see him in terms of getting the ball into the paint. They still had guys, Tre I talked about. Tre was doing more of that. Tyson did a lot of that. They got a lot of that done from other guys. And then as we also talked about, they had some post play out of Malik. That was good to see. So, and you mentioned the fast break production. It was exactly what you want. Great balance offensively, and you have to be really satisfied. And I'm very satisfied because I just saw Michigan lose to Minnesota at home.
Oh, they were losing. We were coming back. Oh,
73-71. Bye-bye,
man,
boys.
Well, that, and this is what, and yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, there won't be a single Michigan fan who knows about it since they're all getting ready for their Big Ten matchup in the final.
They had an announced crowd of like 3,000. I maintain there is no worse, more front-running fan base in basketball in the Big Ten than that one. I'd take Penn State's over theirs.
I think so. Penn State, I don't think most of their students realize they have a basketball team, so I don't know if that would count.
I'm exaggerating, but only slightly. Anyway.
So fourth key to the game is contest the three. So Penn State took 29 threes this game. They were 10% from the first half. They improved in the second half to 10.53% at 2 for 19. Now they jacked up probably 6 with their walk-ons on. I mean, they played 14 players in this game. They really emptied the bench, but they didn't have really many good looks. Even they got a couple that they buried a few, but truly just a few. So great job, Michigan State there. I suppose.
They did. I thought they did a very good job of not letting guys get wide open, easy looks that could maybe get their confidence built. They did a very good job at contesting pretty much everything. And when you do that, you're probably going to have good results. Not necessarily always 3 for 29 results, but good results. Look, a lot of weird things were going to have to happen. Penn State, to hang in this game, Penn State was going to have to really be effective from 3. They were going to have to force a lot of Michigan State mistakes and turn those into points. And those are not easy things to do. And we saw neither one of them came close to coming to fruition. So when that happens, you get a 31-point loss.
Yeah. The only thing they did really well is they were really good from the line, 18 for 22, 82%.
Yeah, well, more than half of those in one guy. Yeah.
Right. 10 of 10. 10 of them were from Clary. Well, I guess anything else to add about the game?
It was, again, really good way to enter the new year, enter back into conference play. And, now you hit this. Look, let's not kid ourselves. This was an easy one. Right now, Penn State looks, and I think after tonight, even though they've got to win already, that's going to be a bad loss for Ohio State.
Well, fortunately for them, they're at least on the road, so that quite as penalized for that.
But this was one that you damn well ought to get, and you ought to get impressively, and they did that. So they've got this level of confidence that's been built up now. Can it continue? And they're going to go on the road for the next two. Sunday at Northwestern. Northwestern's coming off a very surprising to me 30-point loss at Illinois without Terrence Shannon. I thought Northwestern might be exactly the kind of team capable of giving a point guardless team fits. They did not do that at all. Northwestern obviously they've got a lot of mileage out of beating Purdue, but that's a team you worry about. And Michigan State historically has played very, very well in that building. And they've usually got a lot of fan support. But, that's the kind of road win you need to get if you're Michigan State. And then, next week, they go to Champaign-Urbana to face Illinois on the road. So, you get this one in the win column. That's great. That's what you need to do. Now you've got the next two road games, and you certainly don't want to do any worse than split them if you're really trying to keep this momentum going. And ideally, look, the Big Ten is just not a great league this year. I think I'm convinced of that. And when I look at it, there's no single game right now that I look at as one that MSU can't win and shouldn't feel confident going into, save the game at West Lafayette, because it's at West Lafayette. If they were playing them at Breslin, I'd put that in the you should feel confident column too. So, these are games that I think there are quality teams of the Big Ten. There are not great teams of the Big Ten outside of Purdue. So you need to, if you're trying to build a case, not just for sneaking into the tournament, but for actually salvaging a good, solid seed, which I still think is within the realm of possibility for MSU, very much so. You got to take care of business. And so that's where they're at. Nice to get this one in the win column. Now you move on to Northwestern on the road and say, okay, can you respond to this kind of challenge from a very different kind of team than Penn State has?
Last little comments. Izzone, the alumni Izzone was there. They're excellent. It's weird watching Izzone not looking at their phones all the time. So it was kind of, they were very good.
Graham Couch, and I haven't verified this, but he claimed on Twitter, I'll assume he's right, that Michigan State has won at least 9 straight. Whatever they call them, old zone, whatever they are. The alumni Izzone in front of them. And it does seem to be, I'd have to go back and look over the history of it. It does seem to me anecdotally that the schedule has been relatively kind for a lot of those games.
It's usually soft teams, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But nevertheless, it's a hell of a stat.
Yeah, and I think actually even on top of that, I think the average margin of victory is well over double digits for those games too. So they're not even close games usually.
Yeah.
Also, I saw Jeremy Fears moving around pretty good. He has crutches, but he's just walking regularly, but he has either he doesn't know how to use the crutches or anyway, he looks pretty good. Jackson Kohler was running around, looks fine. And
was
then,
Jackson
Garrett Norman
going through the warm-up regularly?
Yes, he had his uniform on and stuff. I don't.
Well,
think
he was listed as questionable for this game. I was just curious. So
yeah, he looked like he was ready to go.
Okay,
I'm trying to remember if we missed the free throw line to start or the layup line, and I wasn't paying attention, to be honest, in the second half. But Garrick Norman he's out of the boot for what it's worth. So
yeah,
anyway,
that's good to say.
He's back practicing.
Yeah, because you want him to have the ability to take full part in practices.
Yeah, scout team and all kind of stuff.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll get out of here, and just a reminder again: check out Nudge Printing at nudgeprinting.com/TFFIONOTS. You can answer the trivia question: who is the last Michigan State basketball player to get drafted in the top 10 in the NBA draft? Then you can win a free T-shirt. So head on over there. You can go to the Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids, have them check out your windows or your house or your business or your high-rise, whatever you happen to have. You get 15% off if you mention Rebound, and you get 20% off, I should mention, at Nudge Printing if you mention that or type that in at the coupon code. And then finally, the Brothers Adjust Your Gutters, 10% off. I've got to remember all these too many discounts. I can't remember. I think it's 10% off at Brothers Adjust Your Gutters if you mention Final Four and when you get your estimate. So until next time, the Final Four is on the schedule. Go green.